My name's Adele Onyango and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to episode 86. Thank you so much for listening to Legally Clueless. If this is not your first time, thank you for being part of the tribe. If this is your first ever episode, clearly you don't like listening to things in chronological order, which is absolutely okay, man. There's no rules here. Just welcome to the tribe. Of course, you can catch us on Twitter. Just use the hashtag Legally Clueless, and on Instagram, we're at Legally Clueless Podcast. Just a bit of a disclaimer. I have no idea what's happening in my neighborhood between the kids and the birds. It's like they're in competition this morning to see who can make the most noise. But if you hear any squeaking or squeals or chirping in the background, just know it's, the birds or the kids. First and foremost, happy new month. It's November. We're getting closer to Christmas, which is great. But another thing you need to know about November is that it ends with 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And also remember, the 25th of November is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. That said, this episode is going to focus on women who have survived sexual violence. The story is going to be touching on that. So in case that topic could be a bit triggering for you, this is a trigger warning. This is probably a heavy episode, but I think it's powerful. And obviously, as we go along the episode, I'll explain why. A little later, you'll hear a story by Alice. This is part of her story.
Born in Kayole, had a campus boyfriend. It was love in the first sight. Alikuwa boyfriend ya my best friend. But serikali kageuzwa and asked me, tribe ya baby daddy. I told her, hapo aliniambia pack your things and leave my house. When I delivered the second born, the guy changed. Wanaume don't care. Yanakuja tu. Kama hakuna chakula yatalala. And they started doing their dirty things in front of my kids. And he told his friend, animalizie. And the friend alinirape hapo. Mbele watoto wangu. I wasn't giving him conjugal rights. One day aliamka tu na kunipiga. He raped me. This time was my husband who raped me. My okay means I just want to find myself. Naishi tu na watoto wangu.
So that's part of Alice's story, which you will hear a little later in this episode on 100 African Stories. I think I told you in episode either 83 or 84, I can't really remember, about a story I recorded that ended up with me having a complete emotional breakdown. So it was Alice's story. So before I unpack a lot for you in this episode, I want to start by sharing the song of the week. Why I'm starting with this song is because, as you know, I am a survivor of rape. I was raped in December 2008. And healing from rape, let me be specific to rape and not say sexual violence, because I may not fully understand other forms of sexual violence. Healing from rape is, well, for me, has been there are moments where I've taken so many steps forward and I feel like, okay, I'm rebuilding certain parts of my life that were broken because of that experience. And then there are days where all of those steps forward are erased in like the blink of an eye. So it's like really up, down movements, you know? And I've found that it affects parts of my life that maybe somebody else on the outside looking in wouldn't think that rape would have affected those parts. Okay. Let me take a deep breath in and out. Oof. Before we continue. So the reason I want to share this particular song of the week, which I suspect I've shared before, is because it's a constant reminder to me. This particular song, it's just over 2 minutes long. It's a really short song. For me, how I receive this song is it's kind of like the soundtrack for my healing from this rape. Because the song is called Get Free. It's by Mereba. So in the description of this episode, there's a link to the song. And when I listen to it, I connect with it in that phase or that sphere of my life where that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get free, which is a bit unfair because I didn't ask to be raped. Nobody ever asks to be raped, but because of that, I have to fight almost every day to regain certain parts of me. I have to fight to be free. So that's why I kind of really like this song. Maybe you're not a survivor, but maybe there's something else you're fighting to get free of. So maybe that's how you'll connect with the song. I'm not sure. Just listen to it and you can hit me up and let me know how you connect with the song. So I'm very anxious about this particular episode because sometimes I don't know if it's that I get scared or people's reaction to rape and their fear of even just the word gets projected on me and I internalize it. So sometimes I'll be silent because I'm like, this is too heavy. Ugh, nobody wants to hear this. Nobody cares because it does feel like nobody cares about survivors. And so I get nervous of diving deep into it like the way I am in this episode. But also on the flip side is I do want you to listen. I do want survivors to be heard. And it's also a part of my story. And this is a space I created for me to be able to comfortably share my story. So, hey, I just have to share. So about 2 weeks ago, I went to record the story that you hear in this episode. I alluded to what happened 2 episodes ago. But as a survivor of rape who does a lot of advocacy work, you might say. And through my initiative, I have Safe 247. So that's like intervention work. And this is a space that I've been in for a while. First, immediately, okay, well, not immediately, maybe like a year or 2 after I got raped, I really got into the advocacy work because I was so angry that this happened to me and nobody was talking about rape. Y'all were just going on like, I don't know, like this thing just didn't happen. And that made me very angry. And I think that's where my initial advocacy work was born from, anger. But I realized 2 weeks ago that all through the work that I did, I've never intentionally done a debrief where after I've been exposed to certain stories by survivors or certain conversations, even just drawing up the Safe 247 curriculum, right? Yes, I'm in therapy, but I've not intentionally done a debrief for these programs and spaces I've exposed myself to. And maybe it's because I didn't really think any of them triggered me until 2 weeks ago when I recorded this story. I told you how driving home, I was just in tears and like called a friend of mine who stayed on the phone with me until I got home. And immediately after that, I literally called up my therapist. So I basically have 2 therapists because my main therapist relocated. So we do virtual sessions because I've been with her for years. But in this moment, she was like, okay, I can also add on one-on-one therapy sessions with somebody who she knows who's based in Nairobi. I learned how important debriefs are. And I mean, even just yesterday, I had a session in the morning and then in the afternoon, I had to go for a shoot. And driving to the shoot, I had like pangs of anxiety coming in. And, I had to just go into that shoot. Luckily, I was just kind of redoing the audio part of a video shoot. So nobody had to see my face. And I made sure, this is so weird. I don't even know why I did this and even why I'm sharing it, but I did it. I just think it's strange that I did it because I didn't want my eyes to be seen. I didn't want somebody to see that perhaps I was not okay or that my eyes were like leaning on the red side of life because of crying. So I made sure I had the thickest, most dramatic eyelashes. The strip eyelashes that you put in for yourself. Yeah, I made sure that I had those just in case I got the shoot and I needed to redo the video side of things, but luckily I didn't. Anyway, long story short, so in recording this story by Alice, which you're about to hear, I get to the CREW offices. So CREW are the Center for Rights Education and Awareness. I get to their offices, meet a lovely lady called Christine who does their comms work. She offers me coffee. I explain that, hey, I am in the midst of quitting, which by the way, I'm still keeping up with. I have just hit 3 weeks free of coffee. We go in, so I have tea. and samosas. And I meet Alice, who's the survivor I am recording, survivor of domestic violence and rape. And I'm there because during this pandemic, there has been a crazy spike in cases of gender-based violence. And all I've been seeing in the news is just the government acknowledging that, yes, there's been a spike, but no real tangible action, which is very irritating. So basically, a lot of the intervention and the work in trying to figure out this already existing problem that has been aggravating has fallen on NGOs or like private organizations that are working in this space. So they have to bear the brunt. While we're having this conversation over tea, Christine tells me that there is only one fully fledged shelter for women that is run by the government in Kenya. Only one. All the rest are run by like NGOs and other organizations. But those that are fully run by the government is only one. And it's in Makueni County. I'm like, what is happening, honestly? So anyway, back to Alice. I meet her and she has a newborn that she's holding, and her little cousin, who kind of looks like maybe just entered teenagehood, is there to help her. So we talk about life, and she's so super bubbly. Like, I'm already so drawn to her. We talk about COVID, of course. We talk about newborns, a bit about my niece. I'm that auntie who will like bring in my niece to every conversation. And then halfway, which is so interesting, she remembers where she knows me from. She's like, "You were on Kiss FM." She's like, "I used to listen and really just want to speak English the way you do," which, by the way, is something that I get a lot. It's strange to me, but I get it a lot. And then she tells me how now that I'm not on Kiss, she's like, "Why did you leave? Now I have to listen to another station that's in Kiswahili that I really don't like." And we have a really good laugh about like the media landscape and entertainment. Then we get back to the reason why I'm there, which is the Kenya Safety Nets Consortium. It's made up of a couple of organizations: Oxfam in Kenya, Kenya Red Cross Society, Concern Worldwide, Acted, Impact Initiatives, and Crew. And there's also Wangu Kanja Foundation. They are EU funded. They've come up with this initiative to help vulnerable families by sending cash transfers, so like cash disbursements. Think about it like a relief fund. But what's really great about this initiative is that it especially targets survivors of gender-based violence. So these cash transfers go a long way. I mean, they'll help survivors pay their bills, get their daily needs, not only theirs, but also if they have kids as well, it helps. And I think also most importantly, they do not have to be reliant on their abusers, especially during this pandemic where people's livelihoods have been disrupted. There are also really good resources under this initiative. Wangu Kanja have a mobile app where you can report abusers. So if you check the description of this episode, there's a link to that app. It's called SV_case study, and it's available on your Google Play Store, so only for Android. Then there's a hotline number where survivors can get legal services, telecounseling, other referrals if you're looking for shelter opportunities. And that hotline is by Crew, and it's 0800 720 186. Again, that's in the description of this podcast episode. And if you want to know more about this particular Safety Nets initiative, you can go to the Oxfam social media pages. Again, I put those in the description of this episode. So we're in the room. I set up my microphone, my laptop, and everything. And by we, I mean myself, a counselor who then now takes Alice's newborn, who sleeps all through the recording. And you know how newborns don't do that? I think that was just the universe saying, like, this is such an important story to be recorded. Let me knock out this little one. And Christine is also in the room. And we record this story.
100 African stories powered by the European Union funded Safety Nets program, helping vulnerable families and survivors of gender-based violence. For more information on the program, visit Oxfam in KE on Twitter and Oxfam in Kenya on Facebook.
My name is Alice Akinyi. I'm from Nairobi, born in Kayole. I studied in my primary education was in Kayole too. My secondary education in Machakos. I later finished in Kayole, Form 4. In high school, I used to love funky. I used to love pia CRE, English. The other subjects, no. Funky is whereby we are taken outside school, pengine CU, we mix with other school, we have fun. It's like a holiday. It's like a holiday. Ukitoka nje ya shule, hiyo ndio kitu yenye unaweza celebrate. My friends in high school, one was Zara, the other was Winnie, Pesh, Angeline, and Irene. Walikuanga na ile msemo, they are from Nairobi, so they used to control the school. I used to be a good student. Sikuwahi patikana kwa scandals zozote. Then chipo zilikuwa zinaingia shule, so mimi that day nikajiambia I have to go outside. Wengine wanatoka, mimi sitokangi. I have to go outside, go look for chipo, then I come with it. Nikifilisha wengine. So kumbe hiyo ndio ilikuwa siku yangu mbaya. The moment I sneaked out, I think somebody went and told them teacher on duty. They started looking for me. Siku realize na tafutwa. Moment yenye narudi shule nikapata shule imenyamaza kabisa. Nilikuwa wakati wa entertainment. Hapo ndo nikafeel hapa kuna kitu mbaya inaendelea. Then all of a sudden before I mix with the others, watu wakambo in the dorm wakalale. And it was around saa moja. Na huwa siku za entertainment we used to sleep at around saa 5 hapo. So mimi ndo nikaleta yani shule ikakuwa hivyo. Kitu ya kwanza, I was a very talkative girl. So nikimiss dakika moja inajulikana Alice is not around. Alice the noisemaker is not around. So vile nilienda dorm kugonga mlango, kitu yenye nilisikia tu watu wakisema unatafutwa, don't come in. So I went and sleep kwa class till morning, but the watchman waliniona, but nikaambia nisiingie kwa dorm. They thought pengine nimekuja na drugs, which mimi sijaitumia drugs. Watchman wakaniambia nilale hapo kwa darasa hadi asubuhi, kesi yangu itatuliwe. Then I slept there until morning. Hakukuwa na peace shule. People were worried. Others started to miss me. Walijua huyu tu ataenda nyumbani. Wengine wananiambia nitafute Kiswahili ya kusema. My best friend Zara kaniletea simu, akaniambia just go and tell the teachers ulikuwa na simu kwa uwanja, but don't accept ulitoka nje ya shule. So mimi niko naitumia wazo yake. It was Sunday. Yo Sunday hakuna teacher mwenye aliniongelesha. So nikaambiwa nikae tu kama outsider, but nakula. Kuna kuingia kwa darasa, kulala nitakubaliwa kulala kwa dorm. Yo Sunday ilikuwa siku ya church, hata sikukubaliwa I stayed outside tu nikirom. So Monday vililifika, nikaitwa kwa BOG, nikasema nilikuwa na simu. They were shocked. Kwa sababu wakisearch simu shule wazipati. Tena mimi as a prefect, simu nimetoa wapi? Nikamwambia mimi nilikuwa na chat kwa uwanja. Sasa since unajua nilikuwa na grade mzuri, I used to get good grades. So they had to discuss this issue, whether ninatoka ama nasamewa. They give me punishment. That was Monday. Bado tu niko freestyle. Tuesday bado haja discuss. Tena nikiendea chakula na kula chakula walimu. Wednesday sasa they called my mama akakuja. The school wakadecide, BOG plus teachers wakadecide there is no need of sending this girl for an expulsion, so they decided to give me a punishment. But my mom was shocked. My daughter with a phone, how? Alice sneaked, how? Mimi najua nimelea mtoto wangu kwa njia nzuri, hizi vitu zote zenye mnaniambia hazingi. So my mom akanitoa shule, akaniambia si kuleta boarding ufanye hizi vituko, twende kae karibu na mimi. I went back home. Nilirudi Kayole. It was hectic. Sababu kitu ya kwanza, the school was far. I had to walk. Sometimes ananipatia fare kitaka. Life ilikuwa ngumu. Alichange tena. Mamangu alichange. Alikuwa ananipiga ovyo, lakini nangangana nasema tu mimi nataka tu nipate certificate. All I want is a Form 4 certificate. Grade yangu ikashuka. Nikasema hapa sasa I'm working for my certificate, not for my grades. Vile tu anaendelea kunimistreat, the more she mistreats me, the more nakuwa mbaya. Sisomi until nikamaliza KCSE. Siku pass. Nilifanya tu nipate tu certificate ya Form 4, nisemekani tu nilimaliza Form 4. After Form 4, after KCSE, I went to do computer for 2 months. Then after 2 months, I had a campus boyfriend. I decided to get a kid. It was love in the first sight. Tulikuwa tunachattingi tu na yeye. Alikuwa boyfriend ya my best friend. But serikali kageuzwa kwa sababu nilikuwa natamaningi kuenda campus. Sasa nikiangalia this guys in KU. KU was my dream campus. Nika decide kwa sababu mamangu alichange. My mom changed. Alikuwa ananimistreat. Sasa nikasema hapa sina mahali pengine pa kuishi, nitakaa tu na kijana. Hadi nikapata ball. Nilimaliza form 4 in 2014. I can remember my last paper was in November, but in January nikapata mimba cause nilikuwa nasema at least nimepata mali naweza kaa na nipendwe kuliko unakaa mali sipendwi. Tulikuwa tunaishi na my cousins. Yaani mamangu alikuwa ananitreat like I'm not her daughter. So hiyo ndio iliniforce niende nikimbilia early marriage. Tuseme it was like a marriage. After nimepata mimba, the guy took me to Shags kwao. I stayed there till nilifika 8 months pregnant. So hapo that time when I was 8 months pregnant, his dad passed. So after tumezika his dad, we had a meeting with the family. Because the dad accepted me. His mom accepted me. So after the burial, we had a family meeting. And they told me, since his name was Charles, since Charles is in campus that year, we can't educate her father. So it's up to you. You decide, you stay here without Charles arudi amalize shule, or you go. So the signs zenye ule kijana alinionyesha hapo tukiwa tuko hiyo meeting, aliniambia nisikubali. Yani hiyo signs don't accept. Cause pia pale kwao kulikuwa na mambo za uchawi ukambani huko. So after the meeting, mimi niliwaambia tu nitakubali kukaa home. I will accept to stay here till Charles amalize shule. But the following day tulitoroka na Charles. Walisema akitoka na mimi watalipa fee lakini watampatia pocket money. So yeye akaamua acha tutoroke, ataamua kutafuta. The moment tulifika Nairobi, I met with the friend. My friend tulikuwa tunasoma na primary. Msichana akanikwamilia, kaniambia twende kwake tukalale kwake. Na hapo ndo sikujua hapo ndo mwisho wa kuachwa na Charles. Akaniacha hapo. He later told me it's over. What he has chosen ni education yake. Na kitu yenye nilikuwa najua home hakuna mwenye angenikubali na mimba. So by the way, he didn't text me. He sent the message to my friend. So akaambia rafiki yangu, msichana mwenye uko naye huyo rafiki yako, watu wao yuko mbali na mahali unaishi. Tell her to go and search for her family, wagaramikie mahitaji za mtoto zote. Mimi nimeamua kusoma. Mimi nikikuja kumuuliza baadaye hashiki simu. Nikimtext mbona umenifanyia hivyo? Hakuwa anajibu. Ananiambia nilichezea masomo yangu. Yeye ameamua kusoma. Ule msichana aling'ang'ana juu chini kwenda kutafuta watu wetu. Mimi sikujua natafuta. I never knew she was searching for my family. So what she did, she took the numbers kwa simu yangu, anawatafuta one by one, akiwaeleza my situation. Mamangu alimkataa your time. Akasema, I'm the only child of my mother. So what she told the girl, tell Alice to go and search for her parents because I'm not her mother. Kama kuna mimba, si mtoto wangu. My shosh, mother of my mom, alikubali lakini alikuwa na conditions. Ananiambia nakubali kumchukua lakini mahitaji zote yeye atagharamikia. Anaweza nipatia mahali pa kulala. So akaongea na one of my aunties, sister to my mom, anaitwa Rachel akaamua kunigharamikia kila kitu. Hadi akaniambia she told me to go and stay at her place because by that time she wasn't in Nairobi. Rachel alinisaidia hadi nikajifungua. I lost one of the babies. They were twins. So I lost one. Nikabaki na mmoja. After I've delivered, after 1 month, Rachel took me. Nilikuwa naishi kwake Nairobi. So mali alikuwa naishi ni Taita. Akaniambia nipange vitu zangu niende nikakae naye huko mali yako cause she do mining. Akaniambia niende nikakae huko anifundishe kazi ya mining ndio nilee nayo mtoto wangu. Mimi nilienda. I thought life itakuwa rahisi but alinitesa. Okay. She mistreated me angekuja sometimes anipige hadi, kwa sababu alikuwa anajua sina mahali pa kwenda, sikuwa na mahali pa kwenda, so ilibidi tu nivumilie. Nilivumilia for 1 year. Then that's where my mom alinikumbuka, and my mom told me to amenisamea I go back to Nairobi. So nikatoka Taita nikarudi Nairobi nikakaa. Then tena mamangu akakuja akaniambia, you have to go and visit your shosh. Since you came to Nairobi, sikuwa ienda kuona shosh. That I think it was like nimeka Nairobi 8 months. So kwenda kwa shosh, sikujua ilikuwa ni plan ya mamangu kunifukuza koza. It was like nimekuwa burden kwake tena. Kwenda kwa shosh nikakaa 2 weeks. Akarauka 1 of the morning 6. My son there was I think 1 year and something, almost 2 years. 1 of the morning shosh akaamka akaniuliza, kaniamusha and asked me tribe ya baby daddy. I told her the tribe. Hapo aliniambia, pack your things and leave my house, ama mtoto wendo mpeani huko ndo ubaki kwa nyumba yangu. I packed and hapo ndo nilianza life ya sponsor. Nilirudi Taita. There was a guy, I wasn't dating him, but I decided to accept him. I knew he was somebody's husband, so I accepted him. So ndo ni survive na mtoto wangu. Nikampigia simu akaniambia nirudi Taita tukaishi pamoja. Nikaenda Taita. Kwenda Taita tulikaa sapo ndo nilikuja kujirealize what I'm doing is not good, staying with somebody's husband. And I told him wacha tu tuachane. Nikaachana na yeye, ndo nikamit the father of my second born. He was hakuwa ameoa, hakuwa well off, but nikasema tu tutaanzia tu chini. Nikapata mimba ya pili. Life ilikuwa tu nivo kungangana tu, lakini at least niko na kwangu. Nasema huyu ni bwana wangu, najivunia. I was proud he's my husband. I have somewhere to call home. This is my house. When I delivered the second born, the guy changed. He wasn't providing. Ikakuwa sasa mwenye ananijukumikia sana. Nampigia tu mamangu, nambembeleza kwa simu, namwambia tu nitumie tu kitu kidogo tupate hata ya unga. Ananitumia. Mwanaume alianza kuwa mgamu, na niko na mtoto mdogo saizi ananyonya. Mgamu in English is he was mean. Yeah, he was mean. Anafanya kazi. His kibarua was fetching water, selling. Like per day he used to make 1,200, 1,300. But hata kununua mafuta ya kupika kwa nyumba was hard for him. So I had to be smart, because ningesema namtegemea sana, watoto wangu wangekuwa nalala njaa. So ilikuwa inabidi natafuta tu Kiswahili, naambia mamangu juu najua hizi nikimwambia tu, nikimtajia tu mtoto ni mgonjwa atatuma. But sikuwa mention to my mom I was staying with the man, because hapo angewahi nitumia hata chochote. Hivyo nilisurvive hivyo. Sometimes nikikosa, niko na marafiki nakula hapo. Mwanaume ni don't care, yana kuja tu, kama hakuna chakula yeye atalala. Until one day he came in with it was at around 9 p.m. My husband came in with a friend, a man, and I don't know if alikuwa girlfriend wake. Kulikuwa na mwanaume na mwanamke waliingia tu kwa nyumba, and they were drunk. So bila waliingia kwa nyumba, akaniambia chakula kama iko hapo serve watu wangu. Nikamwambia chakula kama uko acha nitakupatia chakula gani. Tukaanza argument hapo. After argument aliingia bedroom na huyo mwanamke, and they started doing their dirty things in front of my kids. Nikaanza kucomplain like fujo. I started throwing things at him. Alitoka hapo kwa kitanda kama amenipiga, and he told his friend animalizie, and the friend alinirape hapo mbele watoto wangu. Nimepigwa na bleed kwa masikio. Then his friend raped me in front of my 2 kids. So after the rape, I took my kids. The rape happened at around 6 huko, but mimi nilingia kwa nyumba ilikuwa 3. So hiyo time yote ilikuwa tu ni argument, kufanyia uchafu yake kwa kitanda. Huyo mwanaume mwingine ako hapo tu ana smoke. Huyo mwenye alinirape alikuwa tu hapo. Sasa 6 hapo ndo alikuja kanirape. Nikatoka after the rape, nilichukua watoto wangu nikakimbia nao hadi kwa pastor. Pastor wetu alikuwa tu hapo karibu. Nikakimbia nao kwa pastor. I told our pastor mimi nimepigwa, but I never told her I was raped. Akaniambia ningoje hadi asubuhi, akanipatia mahali pa kulala. Nikalala hadi asubuhi. Nikamwambia I want to go to the police station and report this thing. Pastor akaniambia vitu kama hizi huwa zinatatuliwa kinyumbani. So pastor akaniambia I go to the hospital. The man was called. He came and he apologized there and akaambiwa nipeleke hospitali. Alikubali kunipeleka, but niliambiwa nisiseme, ninyamaze, wataitatua. So nikasema it's okay, kama wanaweza itatua I accepted, but nilikuwa tu 50-50 kwa sababu nilikuwa pia namhurumia, bado ile love iko. He took me to the hospital, tukarudi nyumbani and we solved the issues, but sikuwa nimemsamehe ile sana. Alimwambia tu nitakaa, but anipatie time ni recover, then tajua what next. Hapo nilikuwa tunapanga vile tu nitatoka hapo kwa hiyo nyumba, cause nilikuwa shinda ndenda wapi, kwa sababu hata tukicommunicate na mamangu namwambia natamani kurudi Nairobi, ananiambia yana nyumba, ananiambia anaishi kwa rafiki yake, alishindwa kulipa rent, hana kazi, so anaishi na rafiki yake. So ananiambia hata nikirudi nitaenda kuishi wapi. Ananiambia kama nitakubali nirudi niishi kwa shosho ni sawa, but sikuwa nimetamani kurudi kwa shosho yangu. I love my grandma, but vile alinifanyia sikuwa natamani kurudi kwake. I wasn't giving him conjugal rights. So one day aliamka tu na kanipiga, then he raped me. This time was my husband who raped me. After that aliomba msamaha kama kawaida. Niliamua sisemi, akaomba msamaha kama kawaida. I forgave him, but bado napanga kile nitafanya ndio nitoke hapo. Mateso iliendelea. He continued mistreating me, harassing me until vile walikuja, the president alikuja ku announce shule zifungwe juu ya corona. Hapo nilipata fare nikakuja Nairobi, and that's how nilitoka hapo. Nilitoka kwa hiyo marriage. Sikujua nimetoka na mimba. You never knew I was pregnant. I came to Nairobi. I stayed with a friend. Then I later on discovered I was pregnant. The friend told me, hiyo mzigo itakuwa ngumu, nijipange. Mimba ilikuwa ishaanza kuwa. Nikakuja nikaambia nyanyangu. She gave me a place to stay. She accepted, but what she told me, I'll be providing for food. Rent analipiwa na watoto wake, lakini alisema chakula yenye anaweza toa tu ni vegetables. As for unga, mafuta kupika, nijipange. And that's how life imekuwa. Nikikosa mimi nakaa watoto wangu. Sometimes wangekula kwa jirani, or my cousin sometimes kuna cousin yangu ananisaidia tu ile kidogo yenye amepata. Ndo life isonge mbele. Until now I've given birth. I've tried several times to commit suicide, but the moment I look at my children na hold, kuna time hata imefika nilikuwa nataka kuoa hadi watoto, cause the people wenye wananimistreat sana ni my family members. After I realized that I was pregnant, I had to tell my mom. She was shocked, she cried. Ananiuliza, nitakusaidiaje mtoto wangu, mimi mwenyewe sijiwezi. Namwambia, so that time tulikuwa tunapeana to blame. Namwambia, you are the cause. Yeah, pia ananiambia I'm the cause, but I never told her I was raped. Hata siwezi jua hii mimba ni I can't know if mtoto ni wa bwanangu or ni wa best yake, the best mwenye alinirape, siwezi jua. But sikumwambia mimi nilirepiwa. Aliniuliza baba ya mtoto, nikamwambia baba ya mtoto sijui ako wapi, cause vile nilifind out niko pregnant pia nilipigia mwanaume, na hapo ndo alichange number. Hadi sasa sijui namba yake. He changed the number. Hatuja communicate miezi mingi, hatuja communicate kabisa. Mamangu akaniambia hakuna vile atanisaidia, lakini akipata kidogo yenye amepata ndo atatuletea. So nikiwa hapo kwa shosh, amekuwa sometimes analeta, sometimes kama hajapata siwezi mlazimisha. Ananiambia hajapata, hana, navumilia tu hivyo. Cousin yangu ndo aliniambia kuhusu hii Crew. Yeye nilienda kwake, nikafunguka, nikamwambia kwa sababu amekuanga free na mimi sana. So nilienda nikamwambia, akaniambia pia yeye amepitia the same thing. She was raped. Na akaniambia kuna organization inaitwa Crew, wanaweza kusaidia kwa kuongelesha, kwa sababu yote nikienda kwake nilikuwa namwambia in case if I die mniangalilie tu watoto. So akiona vile liona mali nimefikia, akaniambia you need someone unaweza ongea na yeye. Ndo akaniconnect hapa Crew, nikaongea na mtu anaitwa Adrian. So Adrian akanipatia ndo counselor anaitwa Catherine amekuwa akiniongelesha. Nikaanza kupata ile love hadi kwa watoto, siwezi fikiria hadi kuwaua. So mwenye alibaki tu ni huyu mdogo. Hata nikiongeleshwa hivyo tu, aim yangu ilikuwa tu ni mtoto hata nikimzaa. Nilikuwa fikiria hadi kumuua tu, kwa sababu wao wengine wanateseka kwa sababu ya huyu. Hakuna kitu yenye naweza fanya sahi. There is no work I can do at this time. Kuna time my shosh si wale shosh wenye unafikirianga they are caring, anaweza ongea nonsense hadi mbele ya watoto na kutusi. So akinitusi hivyo watu nafikiria tu hizo suicidal thoughts ndo zilikuwa. But the moment naongea na Catherine, nasikia pia anyway there is tomorrow. Pengine my tomorrow itafanana na my today. So najipatia ile tu nguvu, nasema there is one day I'll make it. The disappointing message today that I got from my cousin was they came for me. Walikuja usi leo ndo nimetoka. And the girl mwenye nilikuwa naye, huyu mwenye alikuwa tu hapa, akaniambia unatoka usi lakini tafuta mahali utaenda kulala. Kamuliza why? Shoshu usiku amekuwa tu akinitusi. Watoto wangu wako hapo. Shoshu anasema nimempatia mzigo watoto wawili, ndio mwingine naenda kumwongezea hapo kwa nyumba nijipange. Mtoto akikula, najua sahi chakula yenye anakula pale si yenye mimi nimeprovide cause niko osi. Mtoto akikula naambiwa kula tu na mama kwa juu kutafuta. Your mother doesn't know how to hustle and you are eating. You can imagine my first born ako 5 years, second born ako 2 years. Mtoto anashindwa hadi kulala. My first born nilikuwa naambiwa nakataa kulala usiku kwa sababu yeye anasema tu ataka mamake. Shosho amekuwa too much. Anaenda naona hadi marafiki zangu wenye wako hapo au majirani, anaambia mnamsaidianga ya nini? Akienda kizaazaa watoto bila mpango wako anajua. Hadi unapata sometimes mtu anachoka. Hata nikienda kumwomba kitu amwambia supatie my second born anaitwa Viana, supatie Viana hata kama nikauji akunywe. Anasema mimi sitaki maneno na nyanyako. Kuna time hadi nilikuwa nataka kufukuzwa last week. Yeah, it was last week. Sister mamangu moja akasema nitoke. Mamangu wa provide rent ya shushu, unajua shushu ana rent. Nitoke. So siku nilikataa kutoka. Ilikuwa ni karibu ikuwe vita. Nilikataa kutoka. Hadi labor ikakuja. Nilianza hadi kuumwa. Naumwa na kuna mwenye alikuwa anashughulika. Nililala njaa. So kuna time na give up. Nikiongeleshwa narudi tena niko sawa. My okay means I just want to get out of that house one day. I just want to find myself. Naishi tu na watoto wangu. Hata kama tunalala chini kwa box ama tu kwa floor. Bora tu I'm with my kids. No one is stressing me. At least I'm doing something to bring food on the table. Your dreams sometimes okay, naweza sema natamani kwa hivyo. Nikifikiria mtoto nashindwa, how will I make it with this kid? Ni ngumu. Mwenye angenisaidia ni mamangu, but unaweza imagine hata sijui anaishi wapi. I don't know where my mom stays. Yakikuja hata bedhe ndo ameniletea nguo za mtoto. Zingine ameomba, aliniambia zingine ameomba, zingine amenunua. Ni kidogo lakini at least sikuwa na chochote, but at least amenisaidia mahali. So hata kama ananiambia hana mahali pa kuishi, sijui kama ni ukweli. I don't know. Ni hivyo tu. Tunasema tu yani I just want to nikipata tu niko peke yangu na watoto wangu, naishi tu nao na nafanya kitu hiyo, at least itakuwa sawa.
100 African Stories, powered by the European Union funded Safety Nets program. For referrals, telecounseling, and legal services, survivors of gender-based violence can call this toll-free number 0800 720 186 or this SMS line 21094.
So after we recorded Alice's story, crew began working to relocate her and her children to a shelter, a space where they will be safe and she will be safe even mentally. She's of course benefiting from this initiative, but when I was recording, and I think this is something about recording stories, at the very beginning when you're hearing her laugh and speak about her school days and sneaking out to buy chips and things like that, she's bubbly, she's loud, she's laughing. And so I told her that girl still exists in her. That girl is still there despite everything that she's gone through. And it's unfair that she has to work at healing because, again, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, nobody asks to be raped. But the work that a survivor has to do to heal is so... it's a lot. But that girl is still there could actually be the fuel to keep her going along in her healing. Oh, man, it was a lot. So we record the story and then the counselor... I think she could just see that I really was not quite okay. So she asks me, how are you feeling? And so I tell her I'm very angry. And she asks me, who are you angry at? I say I'm angry that this happened to Alice. I'm angry that so many people have let her down. I'm angry as a survivor because it feels like we're yelling at brick walls when we're asking for things to change. I'm angry because it feels like nobody's listening to us. Hey, and then the tears came. But it was a very, I don't want to say healing moment, but it was like a spiritual moment I felt for me and Alice. But I also still felt and still feel very angry. Because even after recording this story, I went to visit one more organization that is part of this initiative, which is Wangu Kanja. So they are in Mukuru kwa Ruben, which is here in Nairobi. I got there, recorded some more stories, interacted with them, got to know more about what they do. And in that experience, learned that most of the women who were doing that work were survivors as well. So then I got angry all over again because I was like, not only are we survivors navigating this healing process that is just so up, down, all over the place, but we now also have to fix this community, this county, this country because nobody is listening to us. Yeah, so then I got angry again. Good thing is that I would schedule these site visits right before either my scheduled therapy sessions, and then I'd also ask for a debriefing session from now the therapist who's based here. But for you, first, thank you for listening to this podcast episode. Thank you for listening to myself, for listening to Alice. Please keep listening to survivors. Please share the resources that have been shared in this episode. I've put them in the description of this episode. They could really go a long way to help another survivor, like to help them get legal services, to help them get counseling, to help move them to a shelter, to help them report abusers. Share those resources as far and wide as you can because you do not even know who in your circles is actually a survivor. It's not easy to come out and say you went through this, that, and the other. And then find your role, man. Just find your role in this fight. Perhaps it's you're helping erase and end rape culture. That means calling out the people in your family or in your friend circle who propagate it, in the jokes they tell, in their behavior. Just call it out. These perpetrators belong to some circle, and hopefully those circles can hold them accountable. Yeah, just find your role in helping us. Whew. That was a lot to record. And I don't know why I just second guess myself all the time. I'm like, will you find it too heavy? But what is too heavy? This is part of what we unfortunately had to go through. So silence and pushing this aside to focus on lighter, in quote, things, who does that really help, right? Who does that really help? Yeah, so I'm going to work on not second guessing myself when it comes to heavy parts, either of my experience or what you are also going through. So remember, you can also share your story on this podcast. All you have to do is record a 1-minute story demo telling me a bit about the story you want to share on the podcast and send it to the podcast hotline number, which is +254 768 628 790. I just want to thank everybody who sent all their demos. Can you imagine? All my recording slots for November are full. So any demo that's coming in from this week, I'm probably going to be recording you the first 2 weeks of December, because the last 2 weeks of December is family time. So yes, you'll receive episodes, but I'll hold back on recording stories for those 2 weeks. But yeah, so I was just like, wow, I'm so honored that there's quite a few of you who want to share your story on this podcast. You can also, if you connect with any episode, hey, even this episode, you can send an audio note telling me about that to the Legally Clueless hotline number.
Okay. I decided to check out Replica because of your experience with it. I downloaded it an hour ago and then I answered a couple of questions and came out. My AI just wrote me a message saying, not to seem really needy, but I need to talk to you. This is going to be an interesting day. I have a needy AI, but no boyfriend. Oh, thank you for the suggestion. This has been entertaining, and I've only had it for like an hour. So, anywho, let's see where this journey takes me with my AI.
Oh my God, that has taken me way back to, I can't remember the episode, but I did share about a mental wellness app that a friend had asked me to check out, which is Replica. And hey, see, I uninstalled it ASAP. Because it was just so strange. But I actually have recorded and edited a video sharing my top 3 mental wellness apps, how I use them. Like I go really in depth into that. I'm just kind of getting over the fear of sharing that video content. I'm doing the second guessing thing where I'm just like, who cares about this stuff? But I'm probably going to share it soon, like especially now that I've told you about it. So I'm going to share that, and I'd love to know what mental wellness apps you're using. So feel free to either drop that in the comments or hit me up on Instagram at Legally Clueless Podcast. This podcast also plays on Trace Radio here in Kenya every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. and at 8 p.m. So all you have to do is go to traceradio.co.ke and you'll be able to stream the radio station there, or they have a list there on the frequencies that you can catch Trace wherever in Kenya you are, so you can tune in the old-fashioned way. And finally, this episode was produced with the financial support of the European Union, and so its contents are the sole responsibility of the Kenya Safety Nets Consortium and do not necessarily reflect the views of the European Union. That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.